What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome to the Warframe video. So we're going to have another discussion type video today, and it's something I've really been thinking about a lot over the last few months, at least, and that's going to be self-staggers on weapons that don't really deserve to have them, in my opinion. So before we get into it, let's go over, thank you so much for 20,000 subs on YouTube, guys. I really appreciate it. If you are not currently subbed to the channel and you're enjoying the content, definitely consider subbing to the channel and hitting that bell for notifications, because apparently sometimes the videos don't get in people's sub feeds. I don't know why. She swallowed that fly. So, yeah, and then twitch.tv/Gaz_TTV for the live streams. All right, so let's get into it. So, if you guys have been around for a while, you probably remember the days when shooting a tomb finger at your feet didn't stagger you. Well, about, 8 months ago, they added staggers to this game on self-damage weapon, or rather explosive weapons, and weapons that didn't have staggers before got staggers added to them. So this is an AoE gun right here, and if you're in the AoE of the shots, it will knock you back. This thing actually has a charge function where it will fire a bigger explosion. So basically, staggers from weapons scale up. The more AoE it has, usually the more stagger it has, except for the case of weapons like the Deimos. This thing has a tiny AoE, but it knocks you back fully. So the ways you can get rid of this kind of situation is you can actually put the primed sure-footed mod on your Warframe, if you have it. It's a very long process to get this mod. It's an Exilus mod, so you can put it up here. But yeah, not everyone has that. You can put on handspring, technically, to reduce the amount of time you're on your butt, dancing around, because, they added staggers to these weapons. Let's try that again with handspring. See, you're still probably gonna die while you're knocked over like that. But yeah, there's certain weapons I think, I feel like this mechanic's okay. It was basically for people, it was for DE to make people stop complaining about self-damage, because back in the day, shooting a rocket launcher at your feet would actually kill you. Instead of now, where you shoot a rocket launcher at your feet and you just get knocked over. If people really hate self-damage that much, I guess keep it out of the game. But there's certain weapons that really suffer from having this stagger added to it. And, I mean, there's plenty. Like back in the day, Astilla did not knock you over. And this self-stagger thing is actually really hurting some options that would be potentially competing with the Kuva Nucor for condition overload proccing, which is a big part of the current meta of the game. You've even got the Kuva Seer, which is going to stagger you as well. I think, my personal opinion, any gun that has AoE bullets that are not, huge explosion bullets, like the Kuva Seer, that should not have self-staggers at all. Weapons like, let's see what we have here. Did you know the Cyanex will stagger you now? The Cyanex, which is like little mini darts. That is really killing this thing as an option for CO proccing. It really is. I've tried. I really have. I want it to be good. But here, this is what will happen. So normally you just run in with a Kuva Nucor or whatever your weapon of choice is, probably the Kuva Nucor because it's the best. It will, the shots will linger in the enemies, and then they will stagger you as well. As you can see, you want to run in, do some CO proccing, but if you catch a stray bullet from your own Cyanex, you will get pushed back, and that's just you wasting time. You're not shooting this gun to stagger yourself. You're shooting it to give the enemies procs. So it does do a lot of procs, which is nice, but yeah. The staggers are really hurting it. And here's one of the biggest offenders, in my opinion. Did you know that the Opticore has staggers now, guys? Did you know that the Opticore has staggers? Well, it does. If you shoot too close to an enemy, you will literally stun yourself. Alright? I think that should get removed, too. So my recommendation for DE, when they're doing, because the reason I'm suggesting this is because there's going to be a Deimos, or not Deimos, there's going to be a Warframe Revised update later this year, probably late December, where they're going to change a bunch of this stuff around. They're going to change a bunch of stuff in the sandbox of the game around. I'd say keep self-staggers for things like the Kuva Brahma, the Kuva Ogre's rocket launcher, if you don't want to just re-add self-damage. But things like this, things that have unnecessary staggers on them, you should definitely remove. And reducing it is not acceptable. Just remove it. I should not get staggered by my Opticore at all. Because there's certain situations where the enemy's running at you, you're shooting Opticore at them, you should not get staggered. If my Warframe can kill level 5,000 enemies with a melee weapon, they should be able to carry an Opticore around and not get staggered by how heavy it is or how much recoil it has or something like that. So some weapons they should remove staggers from in the primary department. I'd say potentially the Kuva Checker. It doesn't really have that much AoE on the shots. Now keep in mind, I don't have every weapon in my inventory right now. I'd say the Astilla, it's one of those ones I'm talking about where the bullets are small enough that I'd say they don't need stagger. The Batacore Super Shot probably shouldn't have stagger either. What else we got? The Corinth and the Corinth Prime, I feel like that's appropriate to have stagger on there because the grenade is a really large AoE and it has some oomph to it. So I'd say you can keep the stagger on that if you want to keep staggers in the game, which I don't like. I don't believe the Mila Cernos has stagger, but if it does, remove that one. Comarex, I think, is potentially fine. It didn't have it before, but, it had self-damage before, so I guess it makes sense. Lens, you can keep the stagger on that if you're going to keep it. Opticore, 100%, just remove the Opticore one. Like, that's the biggest offender of them all. And then things like the Phantasma, the explosion's not huge, but, you can keep that, I guess. And the grenade launchers, of course, you keep those. Stulta, another similar situation. Things like, the Trumna. The Trumna also will stagger you when you are too close to the bullets. I'd say, that's a really tiny stagger, but that's still something. It just, we don't need it. If it's going to be that small, just don't even have it in the game. So, remove from the Trumna and the Tomb Finger as well. And then, did you know that even the Panthera Prime has staggers, too? That's just dumb. You know what? Remove that one, too. So, that's for primaries. Let's get into secondaries here. Keep in mind, like I said, I don't have every secondary in my inventory. Kuvastir, remove it. Not as many of these have it. I'd say remove it. The Cynex will be a competitive option again for Condition Overload proccing if you remove the staggers from it, which is what I want. I want there to be competition for the Kuva new core. I don't want it to get nerfed. We already mentioned the Tomb Finger. I think they removed self-staggers from the Pox. The Pox used to have self-staggers. Yeah, it doesn't have them anymore. Okay, good. That's what I mean. Like, the Pox is still, a somewhat viable option because you remove the self... It had self-staggers when they made this update first, so they ended up removing that. Sepulchrum, remove that one. Statacore, I really wish you would remove that one, but I don't think it would be appropriate with the criteria I'm trying to go for here. So I guess you keep those, unfortunately. The Sancti Castanas, similar situation. They explode in a big explosion, so you can keep those too. And I'd say the Deimos and the Zocti Prime, just remove them from the Zocti Prime. I want the Zocti Prime to be good, okay? The fact that the Zocti Prime knocks me down, and it's a heavy knockdown, it kills... We already made a video on this, but it kills Conditioner Overload proccing for the Zocti Prime. Unless you, stand back and, wait for the delayed explosion. Okay, we already went over it. I already got bummed out about the Zocti Prime. But, that's what you could do. And I think that's most of the stuff. Basically, if it's a small AoE bolt, I'd say remove the stagger. If it's not, I guess you're going to keep it, huh? So, I'm just going to quickly go over the stuff, make sure we're not missing anything here. The Stug self-staggers, right? Keep that one for sure. Alright, guys. I hope you found this video helpful. It's just some ideas I have. I've been thinking about a lot. I really don't like... I mean, no one likes self-staggers, to be real. And I actually didn't really mind self-damage as much. But, like I said, I didn't like self-damage as much as people hated it. So if more people are happy from this change than not happy from this change, I guess overall... The community is in a better spot than before we had self-damage. So I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for all the support lately, and take it easy. Peace.